We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast for the Virtual Coffee Connection. And we're going to dive right in. Anita had a really always come early, always stay late because that's where the real cool stuff happens. Anita, you had a really interesting question. What was your question?
So, like in anything, like it can be work or just personal life, like habits or whatever, if something is not working for you, like you try and you try to make it work and it just doesn't work, like how do you know when to give up on it or when to keep pushing through? Because, like the 3 feet from gold, you might be really, really close to breakthrough. Like, how do you know? How do you
Right.
know when to quit or when to keep going?
Yeah, that is such a great question. Um, I don't think, I'm only 62 years old, so I haven't figured that out yet. So here's some things that I think are good. One is it's like in golf. Um, like in golf, never putt short. So if you putt a little bit long in golf, it's better because the couple will go ahead and do it. So same thing in true in life. Like if we give up, if we quit, if we stop, um, we'll never know. So that's one piece there. Um, so I always like have rules like when I feel like quitting, giving up, changing, whatever, I always go at least three things longer. It could be 3 days, 3 months, 3 years. I mean, it's always longer than what I think because it's almost like exercise. Like you can do 20 reps and your last three are going to produce more benefit to your body than the first 20. And after you do that 23, if you can do just one more, that one more can do better than the 23. So that's one piece. Another piece is often we think things aren't working that are, or we think things are working that aren't. And so, if you're a fisherman and you're starting to farm, it's different. Like you're like, okay, this is stupid. Like this isn't working. Well, it is working. So much of what we do, so much of what we do, we don't get benefit from it right away. We get benefit in the future. And so each of the different personalities, like the analytic, like Tom Coons, he said people are quick start. He said, Mark, you're very different than other people. And I'm like, how's that? And he said, you're a quick start and a slow stop. So most people are quick start. They start something quick and they quit quick. Other people start slow and stop slow. There are some people that start quick and quit, or start slow, quit quick. That's not good. Typically, that's not going to work good. He said, but you are a start quick and stop slow. So I quickly adapt to things. I quickly dive into things. It doesn't mean I don't think about it, but I know that nobody knows if something's going to work or not work until you try it. Um, so I think those are some pieces. I think another piece is um, like the impact, again, whether it's personal or professional, either way. What's the impact of me continuing, or what's the impact of me stopping? If the impact is going to be felt on other people of stopping, um, well, then I need to consider that. That doesn't mean I need to keep going. It just means I need to consider that. Um, I think that communication is often we communicate to people about problems to the wrong people. It's not to the people who can actually solve the problem. And we don't communicate to the people who can solve the problem. And so I think it's important to communicate to people, like if it's not working out, if there's other people involved, which typically there is personally or professionally, if you go ahead and are honest and say, hey, this isn't working out, the friendship, the relationship, the project, the business, whatever, if things aren't working out, I I think people, especially the amiable personality and maybe the analytic, often they don't communicate that. They don't communicate. It's not so. It would be fixable. It would be fixable if the person would just communicate it. So, a lot to think about. Great question. Does that help, or do you have other follow-up questions on it?
Yeah, I actually do have another question.
Yeah,
So, is there a difference between stopping something and giving up?
I would say yes. So I remember once, I was on a podcast with my good friend Tom Coons and co-author of the book Community Business Partnerships, and so I've known him for 20 years. Fascinating guy. And I jumped on a podcast and I didn't have my normal energy. And he's like, "Mark, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a little bit down today." And he's like, "What's going on?" I said, "Yeah, I'm discouraged because, there's a CPA that we've been partnering with for a couple of years and he just quit. He just quit. He didn't, there's no notice, no communication, just quit." And he said, "Okay, so why are you discouraged? Why are you frustrated? Why are you, you know?" I said, like, "I'm thinking, Tom, are you dumb?" Like, like, so I said it a little slower. I said, "So Tom, 2 years invested into developing this partnership and benefiting both of us and all this stuff. And then the CPA just quit." He's like, "Okay, I think I understand. So why are you frustrated? Why are you discouraged?" And then I raised my voice, got a little more intense. And he's like, "Okay, so why?" I mean, fourth, man, I said, finally, I said, "Tom, I don't understand what you're saying. Like it's crazy. Why wouldn't I be?" He says, "Well, was it a good idea?" And I said, "Well, yeah." He says, "Are there other CPAs out there?" I'm like, duh. Like, so I think a lot of times we spend time in a pity party. We spend time in discouragement or frustration or giving up, or, we have a slow death. And it's like, where it's like, is it a good idea? If it is, then buckle it up and make it happen, push it through. So I would say that most of the significant things, Anita, that have worked well in my life, I think, and I think will have eternal value, are things that without question I felt like giving up. Like my second oldest daughter, so we have 7 kids and they're all out of the home, 10 grandkids, 2 more on the way. And my second oldest daughter, I don't know, a few months back, she goes ahead and calls me up. She's like, "Hey, Dad, we talked a little bit." And she says, "How do you do it, Dad? You know, how do you go ahead and do it? And like, how do you not give up? How do you not quit?" And I said, "Well, I didn't know that was an option, honey." And she goes, "It's always an option, Dad." And I'm like, "Well, if that's an option, then I'm going to quit." So for me, Anita, I think there is I think a lot of times it's a slight adjustment, and what we thought was failure will turn into success, like the 3 feet from goal. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. Mervyn, what would you like to accomplish today? Anything specific, or do you want me to go after a couple of the biggest challenge and you'd love help on?
I didn't really come prepared to talk about anything specific. I guess
Okay.
just lead the way.
Okay, I can do that. So Mervyn said that his biggest challenge was when to say no to people, to dial in your new sales, and then what he'd love help is, "I'd like to have stable business and have people working in the business." Um, and then what you said is what you'd like to change about yourself is self-discipline. So Mervyn's personality is going to be, in the pain quadrant, is going to be analytic driver. And then in the geo test, expressive driver. So very fascinating personality, a chameleon personality. And so, so in the geo test, one of Mervin's greatest strengths would be dot the I's at times, cross the T's, make sure things are done properly. And order weakness would be the same. And then secondary is drive, assertiveness, you make things happen. So very task oriented, be able to see the big picture and do the details of it. But on the pain quadrant, it's expressive driver. So one of the greatest strengths of that is energy, excitement, enthusiasm, million ideas. When I combine it all together, one of the greatest strengths is flexibility. So each of the four different personalities will be lack discipline for they look very different. And so one of the greatest strengths for Mervin is going to be to like his flexibility. So that's good. He can kind of adjust here, move here, do this and that. But the weakness of that is his flexibility, where he might chase this or do this or whatever. So it's really, Mervin, I think it's you better understanding, going through maybe courses or, training or books or coaching or something, and being able to go ahead and better understand your complex personality and when to use which energies of which personality. So the amiable personality, that personality their energy is going to be concern, compassion for people. So they're not going to like conflict. And so that's a certain energy. The analytic energy is going to like things done properly in order. So you've got that strong in some situations. The driver is going to be, drive, assertiveness, make things happen. And the expressive is going to be energy, excitement, enthusiasm. So understanding, Mervin, understanding when do you use the different gifts, different personalities you have to move or drive something forward. Does that make sense, Mervin?
I believe so.
Cool. Anything else that anyone has today? All right. Sounds good. If you're listening to the rebroadcast of this, you have any questions, feel free to connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session, or you can call toll free 888-230-2300 outside the U.S. 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.